Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wedding Lens Lounge podcast. I am very thrilled to have a just an incredible human being on this podcast. He is an expert at the Asian squat and also as an elopement photographer. And I am thrilled to really hear more of his story and to have him really bring a lot of great insight and his wisdom to you today. But before we get into that, I would love for you, Henry, to introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, thank you for that introduction. My name is Henry. Yes, I can do the Asian squat. um, yeah, I am an elopement photographer based out of Seattle, Washington. My background is actually in cardiac ICU. I used to be a nurse, and from nursing, it took a turn, and I just wanted to just see something outside of the hospital. Then that's the reason why I started hiking, started taking photos, and then wedding photography just sort of fell into my lap. And I took a chance and say, hey, let's give this a shot and see where this is going to take me. And I'm happy that I took that shot because right now I get to just work with incredible couples and travel for work and just see the all kind of beauty in the world.
That must be incredible to even think about how you transitioned from a nursing job to a position that you get to go all around the entire world and see so many different things. I would love to hear more about how that really what that transition looked like a little bit more deeply because you were in a position where you were really helping people in such a different way as a
Mm,
nurse.
yes.
And I would love for you to talk about a little bit like how do you now serve others in this type of capacity? Like, what's your approach with that?
Yeah, so I really do think in the beginning I didn't see this at all. Like honestly, when I first started wedding photography, I honestly just it was more like a selfish reason. I gotta
Hmm.
admit, like it was more like I just wanted to do something different. I think the hospital setting was just getting a bit too dark for me.
Hmm.
One second. Sorry about
You're okay.
that. Yeah, yeah. I think the hospital setting was just getting a little bit more dark for just my mental health overall. It just
Hmm.
you see death, you see emotional heartbreaks and all that every day, and so honestly, yeah, it was more like selfish. Uh, Up until about 2 years into me doing wedding photography full time, that's when I really take a look back into my whole careers between nursing and wedding photography, and I see that there's some like similarities and that there's some similarity in commonality that I can totally see for sure is that at the hospital I help people when they don't know what to expect, and that's the same thing in the wedding world. um, the differences would be, you're with someone on the worst day of their life versus you're being with someone on the best day of their life,
Wow.
and where it is on that spectrum, right? The people still have a lot of things that they need to process, and sometimes they just need an additional set of eye and something to just hold their hand and walk them along this way. And seeing that, I was like, oh my goodness, like I didn't realize that that's the thing about nursing and photography, that I actually took from nursing, the skills, the human connection, the things about learning how to talk to people in a way that they understand and want to take that education with them so that they can better their life. I took all of that from nursing and bring it into the wedding world when I work with clients.
Wow. That perspective is pretty remarkable, honestly. And
Yeah.
it must have been interesting to really acknowledge that when you got to that point of that. And I always find it amazing how when people are really able to see that certain parts of their own story can lead to being into a career that everything that they learned from that time, they're able to utilize that into what they do now. And
Mm.
I can resonate with that. I was never a nurse. I could not do that. Uh, I give you so much credit for being a nurse for the time that you were, honestly. But I
Thank you.
love that. I
What
really
were
love.
did you do something before photography?
Yeah, I worked at a nonprofit for 5 years in all different realms of business. But then I also was a teacher for a couple years, and
Hmm.
I give nurses and teachers so much credit for what they do in that line of work. It is admirable and so important. So
Yeah.
shout out to all of you nurses and teachers.
One thing
But
I learned
yeah.
is that not just nurses, teacher, but with you sharing about you working at nonprofit places and
Hmm.
being a teacher, is that it reminded me of this quote from Steve Jobs. He said basically, don't discredit like your past, like don't forget, like you get to a certain point in your life and you learn something from that job, from that relationship, from that one place you're in, and all of those little things, it's sort of becoming like who you are. It's shaping who you are as a person. And so don't discredit the experience that you have. Like those are the things that you can carry with you, and it is becoming your future success basically.
I love that. That's so good. And
Yeah.
it's so true and important for people to even be reminded of that, that, of course there's a point where like, oh man, I wish I would have started wedding photography or the passion that
Hmm.
I'm in now earlier on in life. But I really do believe that, like your quote by Steve Jobs just nails it, that so much a part of your story led you up to being able to do this now. And
100%. Yeah.
yeah, that's so important to acknowledge that, because of course, like I would have loved to have been able to start wedding photography 7 years ago when I started my footsteps into the careers that I did, but those helped train me and prepare me to be a better wedding photographer at this point by working in so many different realms of business, and then also working with people like in the
Hmm.
education profession. 'Cause
Yeah.
you learn how to handle a lot of different behaviors in
Oh,
the
I cannot imagine, but I can, yeah, I believe it.
well, I'm sure that the conversations that you had with people as a nurse also prepared you on how to have those types of conversations in a different realm with those that you work with now. The
Hmm.
couples you work with, the families you work with, like learning just how to like navigate certain conversations in general, especially when maybe people are worried or frustrated or scared about certain things. You're able to bring that, like, the what is it called, like the bedside mannerisms.
Oh, that's it. Yep, you got it.
Yep, yep, and just bringing that comfort to them. Yeah, I would love to actually talk about that a little bit. Is your client experience, and what does that look like in the realm of when you are working with your couples and you're creating this incredible experience for them? What does that process fully look like? You don't have to go like in
Hmm.
in depth like too much because I'm sure there is so much for you to share about that. But I would love to hear like what that process looks like, and how do you bring that peace of mind to
Mm,
your couples who have this huge vision for what they want out of the experience, and how do
right.
you work with them to create that the vision come to life?
Right, right. And I think that's a really good questions. And because I think a lot of us photographers out there, like sometimes we don't fully understand what client experience might look like, and do client actually want that client experience. And so there's a different photographer for everybody. And so for me, it started with branding and started with my website. I think every page on my website, I fully go in and describe what an experience of working with me is going to be like, and what an experience of actually going out there with your family or not, hiking or not, wherever this place is. I I speak to it that I want each of these couple to see themselves in a way that they can just fully immerse in on this day, forget about anything else that's happening in the world or back at home. Like this is the one day that it's not gonna happen again. There's really no do-overs. and and it should contain memories that years and years from now, like if something's heavy is going to happen and life is going to happen, and it does, right? Like for both you and I, we've been married to our partner for so long that
Hmm.
we do know when time gets tough, like you need something to keep you grounded basically. And I think there's so many different ways that people can stay grounded, and memories from their wedding day should be one of them. Not the only thing, but it can be one of those reasons why you just stay grounded with your partner and be like, we got this, we can do this. And so I speak to that a lot. And it started with the inquiry process. Like I ask questions in my inquiry form as well. And that's one of those contradictory things. Like many people in marketing might look at my inquiry form and be like, that's too long. Like you create too many friction where if you ask less questions, you get more inquiries and get more booking. And I get that mindset. But at the same time, I know that I need to set some sort of boundary so that when people come to me, they know that this is what I'm doing. I open my business for everyone, but that doesn't mean I'm a good fit for everyone. And as
Right.
long as I'm a good fit for you, please go ahead and fill out my inquiry form. And so I think just from that beginning process, I get to set that establishment that, this is what we're going to do. This is going to be an experience. And then we follow up with a phone call. The first phone call that I have with each couple is quite long. I always tell people in advance because I know everybody is busy.
Yes.
Um, I tell them it's going to be about an hour or more. And the or more it actually kicks in like every single time because I want to be able to
Yeah.
answer the questions that people have. Like, what exactly are we going to do on this day? Because what I do is elopements and intimate weddings. And the thing about elopements and intimate weddings is that you might see photos on the internet and you love it so much because you can see the joy, the landscape, the photo. But the couple themselves, the new couple who's about to inquire or just inquired, they don't actually fully understand the process, the logistics, the planning. They don't know how to get there. How do I get to this point where we can enjoy this day and get beautiful photos? That's that's what this phone call is about. Is I'm telling them each step along the way of what they need to do, of what I need to do, because um, that's just full transparency. That just I don't want people to go in book and then later on learn about, oh my gosh, we have to do this. We have to get a permit. We have to think about this remote location that's really beautiful. There's not enough Airbnb for me to book so that my family can stay with me at the same Airbnb. Like just those little things I want to make sure people fully understand. And then the fun part actually begins when my couples book, because then I get really invested. Just how I cannot take every single couple who come my way. That I limit myself to be photographing around 35, 40 elopements a year. And so I can really focus on each couple. Each one of them have a folder on my Google Drive. They have their own
I
folder.
love that.
And in each folder, I keep things that they send to me. It could be a
Mm.
selfie that they send. It could be a photo of their dogs, or each email they update me about whatever is going on in life. I make sure to summarize it and put it in that folder so that I can zoom out and look at that folder as almost like, what is this couple about? What do they care for? They love these photos with the mountain landscape, but do they really want to hike? Like, there's no shame in people who want to go out and take beautiful photos without doing like a 6 mile hike. There are places for couples to elope without doing, the amount of spend hours and hours hiking. So me zooming out and looking down looking at each of those folder, I really understand the couple, what they value, what do they want to experience. And then I would come up with location recommendation, activity recommendation. I'll get back on another phone call with them during earlier in the planning process, and just to figure things out. If we are going here, staying in this cabin, what are some nearby places we can visit in addition to just the one place we're thinking about sunset photos? And then through these phone calls, that's the thing, right? Like, we all have layers to us. Like the first phone call is really hard for people to share everything about themselves. But the more phone calls, the more chances that I get to really talk to them in addition to email, then people feel more comfortable with me. All of this is building up to the day that I'm going to meet them. The more they can open themselves to me, the more I really understand what they value. And the more we just feel connected in a way. So then by the time I show up to their Airbnb or their hotel on that day of their wedding day, it feels like maybe we've been friends and this is finally we get to see each other again versus, oh my gosh, we put down the deposit. Now who is this guy? Like, then it would be
Yeah,
much
so true
harder
though. Yeah.
for me to get people to be comfortable. And I think ultimately all of this long planning process and emails and phone calls is all leading up to that, the experience and the photos.
Wow. I mean, that is incredible. And when you were sharing all of that, the two words that really came to heart were intentional and authentic. And I think that so many photographers truly desire to create an experience based on those two words, but I don't know if they actually know how to do that. And because I think the word authentic is thrown around all the time,
Hmm.
and I think it is such a meaningful word, but what does that actually look like, And I think just from the experience that you provide, just based on what you just shared there, really exemplifies and shows authenticity because the fact that you even create a folder for each couple and you keep those little pieces about them to really get to know them on a deeper level, even beyond your conversations that you have with them, is so powerful. And I think that's how you're able to ultimately create an experience that exemplifies who they are as human beings. And so when you're thinking about like the word authentic, what do you think most people think it is, and what do you do to make sure that like the experience is ultimately authentic for the couple when you get to their when you're working on their wedding day with them?
Right. I think for the longest time, I think of myself as a younger, like beginner photographer. When I first pick up the camera, the word authentic to me usually is associated with poses. Like I
Mm,
don't know why, but it's just
yeah.
anytime. I think maybe because when I first started wedding photography, there was a lot of feature account like on Instagram. Like if you
Yes.
post a certain photo and you tag them, you'll get featured on that account. And the more authentic looking photos are pushed out on the internet, the more chance that people get featured. And so um, people started doing poses that look like it's unposed.
Mm.
For example, like those photos don't look like the typical JC Penney poses.
Old school right
And
there. Yeah.
right. um, and I don't get me wrong, those photos are so beautiful. Like I
Yeah.
love them, but in a way, not every photos that look cinematic and unposed are truly authentic because the photographer might have come up with guidance and be like, hey, can you go run through the field with your arms up in the air and just fall into them? The photos would turn out really authentic looking. But what about this couple and how they feel in that moment? Do they do that pose because what the photographer is telling them? Or do they do it because they actually like that's their love language? That's the way that they express love. That's the way that they see each other every day at home in their relationship. And so then if there's things that are not congruent, there's if they don't feel that way, then no matter how authentic, quotation mark here, authentic the photos look, it is not authentic to the couple. And so for now, when I'm sitting here thinking about that word, I I want to switch it up and I want to call it honest, like instead of
Mm,
like
mm,
an authentic experience, like I would call it an honest experience. Like if it's an honest thing, do you see yourself in this moment? Like that's the reason why I really want to get to know each couple too, just because I photograph at the same location, and for some other photographers, just because you photograph at the same venue over and over and over, doesn't mean that's the pose I'm gonna do when I'm at this venue. Because maybe this couple, their love language is actually um, doing something for each other. Maybe it's the act of service. Maybe it's not always physical touch. And if there's couples out there that really against physical touch and don't like kissing in front of other people, in front of anyone at all, if I keep posing them with kisses, like it doesn't feel so honest.
Right.
anymore.
Right.
And I think when I think of that, yeah, I think of the word honest. I want to look back at those folders of information that couples share with me. Like, what am I? The poses I'm about to do with these couple, does it have anything to do with what they share with me at all? Can
Mm-hmm.
I elevate what they share with me with a set of of the artist's perspective to just get these words and these moments into actually a photo that they can see themselves in? That's like, yes, maybe we don't do this kind of pose every day, but when we look at this, we literally see us not trying to be anybody else.
Yeah, it's so good, and I love the word that you use instead of authentic is honest, because I ultimately think that one of the best pieces of a review that we get back from a couple is when they say something like, "You really truly captured us." And I
Yes,
think that's such a hard review to get almost.
it is
But
hard.
yeah, and I feel like so when someone says that like in a review, I feel like, man, that photographer definitely took the time to get to know them and really invested in them fully. And I know you
Hmm.
talked about that even earlier in the conversation, that you really want to invest in them fully. As soon as they book you, you're all in with them. You're all in
Hmm.
getting to know them better, getting to understand who they are, what their love languages are. Because totally understand, like, I love my wife. One of her like lower love language pieces is physical touch.
Yeah.
But one of the ones she really values is like acts of service, or words of affirmation. And so like when you go that deep with a couple, it is really, I feel like, so empowering to them as well. And so when you show up on that wedding day with them, you it's like you're already prepared to understand how to capture them even more deeply. And yeah, I love everything you just shared there, Henry. It's so good, and I think such a powerful message to photographers to really understand, what's really valuable and important to this couple, and how are you then going to work behind the scenes to prepare for that as well.
Yeah.
It's I love that. I love the way that you work with your couples, and I think it's so empowering to other photographers listening in to really hear how they can do the same with their couples as well. Because if you really want to provide that exceptional experience, you have to go above and beyond. And I think that's just so good. It's so
Yeah,
good.
it is uh it's hard work. I mean, it's
Yes.
right. Like, I don't think people might think, oh, photography is so easy. Like, I think that's what normal, like, non-photographers usually look at us, right?
Oh
They're like,
yeah.
oh, you just need a camera. I have an iPhone. I can take photos with that. I can use like an app to edit.
Yep.
And with the rise of smartphones since what, 2009, 10, I can remember, but
Yeah.
whatever, the
Yeah. A little
iPhone came
around that
out,
time. Yeah.
uh, until now, let's just say 2010 to right now, that's 14 years of
Right.
living with smartphones, and people have access to cameras in their pocket. But there's a reason why people still book professional photographers. There's a reason why they still come to us, so that we can create something that their phone cannot. And I think with the hard work, the more time we invest in ourselves and what we actually believe in and what we actually want to do, I think that's what's going to set us apart. That's going to set us to be like, oh, if I want this kind of photo, I'm going to go to this person. I'm going to go to him, go to her. I'm going to that to the instead of the one photographer down the street that might charge maybe just half of what you're charging right now.
Yeah. It's true. And what I think you're right that a lot of people think it's easy just to grab a camera off the shelf of Best Buy or something and just go out there and make money. But there's so much to it. And I think that is sometimes, we all have our quote unquote off season as photographers. And then I think that, there's a disconnect with the amount of time you could put into your craft and the experience you want to bring your couples in that off season. Thinking about how can you work on that, and setting aside that time to ensure that you invest back in yourself, so that way you create an experience like that you're describing. Because
Mm-hmm.
everyone loves that time of rest, and it's important to have rest, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also important to continue to invest in your craft so that way that client experience is exceptional. They're investing so much into us. They're
Hmm.
trusting us. Like I think that's one of the biggest words that I try to hone in on is trust.
Oh, it's
This,
huge.
yeah, like this couple is putting so much money into me and trusting me to capture an unrepeatable day.
100%. Like sometimes I get overwhelmed by that trust. Like overwhelmed
Yeah,
as in like they trust me so much about this piece of memory that's like when you go through major life experience, right? Like a graduation, your first adult job, your serious partner, your engagement, your wedding, your pregnancy, like those major milestones. When you look back in life, what is the purpose of life? Why are we living? Not to work. That's not the reason why we're all here on earth. Like we're put here on earth. I actually think we all each should find a reason for living, but for me personally, when I look back, it's about those memories. Life is made of memories, that the time I spend with the people in my life, not just my partner, but my friends, my coworkers, anyone. And so when couple trust you so much to document this day, the memories, like that's when sometimes imposter syndrome would kick in. For
yeah,
me, for sure, I would sit there and be like, "Oh my god, it's like like, can I deliver this? Like, am I gonna be okay?" Like, there's moment like every wedding, like before every single wedding, it hasn't gotten any better for me. Is that I can feel my heart is beating a little bit faster as I drive to their Airbnb or hotel, and I have to have like a routine so that I can calm myself down because I was just so excited and nervous about the amount of trust that someone put on me.
yeah, yeah. It is. You're not wrong. It is scary. Like sometimes I'll be driving to a wedding. And I'm like, oh man, am I really ready to go? like,
Yeah.
like I gotta find the kid when I get there or something. So I'm
Do you have like a thing that you do that's like, oh, that's gonna calm me down?
yeah. Honestly, it's weird. I sit in silence in the
Oh,
car
that's
ride.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, and just almost like meditate with my eyes open. Or else they
Important.
really won't, right, or else they really won't have any memories of their wedding day. But I genuinely will sit in silence and just think about the couple, my time with them. I think about the engagement experience that they had. I think
Mm,
about our conversations and really try to hone in and remember just who they are, what they value, and what they're most excited about for their wedding day. Because if I can just flip the switch in my brain to that, I feel like it just gets me more excited for them and really helps me be intentional about what I'm capturing and what I'm focusing on.
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really good.
What about you? I'm interested in what.
Oh,
what
so instead of being in silent, I actually play music that make me feel like a bad bitch. That's
I
what I
love
like to
that.
describe it.
I might have to
It's
try
a
that.
yeah, it's a lot of female rapping. Like it's
I
Nicki
love that.
Minaj and Cardi B and just just like sitting there like lip syncing, and
Yes.
whenever the beat drop I have to like act like I'm a part of this music video or something.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. It like almost just gets you hyped up and just ready to go. So when you're walking into that time with them, you do feel like a bad bitch.
Yeah, you gotta believe.
I might have to try that next time.
Yeah.
Just see what happens.
Maybe try it. You're like next time you go to Costco or something to see.
Do a trial
Give
run.
it like a
Yeah.
trial run to see how it's gonna make you feel.
Walk into Costco like a bad bitch.
Pushing that shopping cart.
Right. Just strut with it. Yeah. I might get some looks, but I'll be like, hey, this is part of my job. Like Henry told me to.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Is there like a go-to song that you like almost listen to every time that or is it just more like you just go with your playlist?
Mm. Uh, Money by Cardi B.
Okay, okay. I think that's fantastic.
there's a there's a part where she's like something she's like she's rapping, and there's this one line that I just remember all the time is I need room for my legs, and she's talking about flying.
most most people would not really think that. Oh, I love that. Well, you do fly a lot, so maybe that helps a little bit.
Maybe I should listen to that every time I go onto an airplane. I need room for my legs.
Well, to all the tall people, we do struggle with that. So,
Right. I'm not tall, but I still struggle with it.
oh, so you're good. Every flight feels like first class.
True.
I'm just like hoping that, like, no offense, but like the person that comes and sits next to me is also not, 6'1", and so that we have some shared leg room. um, what is so you've traveled to so many places around the world, and that must be just an incredible experience too. And I'm sure it's also exhausting at times. But I love seeing that you and your husband do this together, like the traveling together. Just tell me what's that like for the both of you to experience those trips together and to be able to also be a part of these wedding day as well.
Yeah. So back when I was a nurse, I worked night shifts from 7 p.m. to 7:30 a.m.
Oh wow.
So by the time I get home, it's just like 8:30, 9 o'clock. My
You're ready to
husband
sleep.
was a social worker, and he was working day shifts.
Oh
And
wow.
so for the first 3 years of our marriage, we never really see each other. Like we see each other 15 minutes a day when he's like got home from work, and I'm like having dinner before I have to leave for the hospital. And so for the longest time, we barely have time. And you think that's the thing about the first couple of years in your marriage are like some of the most important years, right? Like you're trying to figure things
Absolutely.
out, understand your partner, trying to see like how do we build a home together. And our first couple of years get stressed out because of the limited amount of time that we get to spend with each other. And so since I jumped like full-time photography, and then he became a full-time wedding planner, we now have the luxury of just working like with each other, spend time at home together instead of going to work. And so we decided that now uh, we want to spend time more with each other, even if some weddings, because some wedding couple might book both of us at the same time. Like they would book me for photos and him for officiating, florals, planning. Some couples just book me because they might have an intimate elopement with just the two of them and they don't need the services that he offer. But I still take him along anyways, just so that we can experience something new together. And when couple book, I only charge for travel expenses for one photographer. I never charge them for my husband to come with me on anything. But when he goes, we just pay for his own ticket and his own fly and travel to get there. I really. I noticed this one time I went to Alaska to work for like 10 days. And that was the one time that he wasn't with me, because usually we would travel everywhere together. He needed to do something at home. And I went to Alaska all by myself for 10 days. And that's when I realized how lonely our
Wow.
job as wedding photographers can be. As in,
Yeah.
when you think, like, I have this privilege for the last couple of years that wherever I go, my partner, my husband, come with me everywhere. I might go photograph the whole day and he stay back at the Airbnb. But when I get home from work, from the wedding, I have someone to go to dinner with. I have someone that I can talk to, like, hey, this is what happened today. And maybe the next day before we fly home, before we have that time, we might go explore. We might go hiking, do some hiking together, and just living together, basically. Um, and I realized when I was by myself, I was like, oh my goodness, like all these single photographer who, you spend hours and hours in your car driving from your house to the venue. And photograph the whole day. You're being surrounded by people, but you don't really know any of them. So it's not like a place where you can like connect fully.
Right.
And then when you drive home and you sit in your office with your uh, thousands of files of photos to edit, like you're editing by yourself, it's such a lonely job. So
Yeah.
with my husband, yeah, whenever I can, whenever he's free, 100%, like I would always want to have him there with me, just so that we can live our life while we're working and not just like wait to come home and then start living.
I love that. I love that you basically take full advantage of that opportunity, and I honestly love that you share it all on your Instagram, like your time together. It's the experience, and I know it's not you're fully on social media the entire trip, like you're actually genuinely enjoying the time. But I love that you're able to make that happen because you saw that when you both were working, in the hospital and as a social worker, you saw how much um, like value there was being together
Hmm.
because initially you couldn't. I mean, the time he was going to work, you were sleeping, and vice
Yeah,
versa. And you probably only saw each other like maybe an hour or so a day.
yeah, yeah.
It must have been hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, so for now, yep, that's what we'll do. Whenever we can, we try to do it all, like just so that we can. Because for example, with that Alaska trip, like I on that one day in between elopements, I don't want to go to this animal sanctuary, and he's not there, and
right,
like I don't want to experience that by myself,
yeah,
you know. So I'm
I,
like saving
yeah.
it for next time.
Right, right. I totally get it. I my first destination wedding I did in Mexico. My wife didn't come with me.
Oh,
Our younger one was very little at the time, so we
yeah.
understood. But yeah, when I went there, I understood like I was lonely, and it felt
Hmm.
weird going even to like the pool by myself. Like,
It's weird, right?
yeah, like well, first of all, I almost look like a creep, just swimming around, at this like couples resort, like where's this dude's spouse, and
Yeah.
even just sitting by the beach having a drink, it wasn't. I know I was in paradise, and so people like have no sympathy for me, which I understood, but it was lonely, and I just didn't enjoy it. So I understand that, and it's amazing too that you really just both can experience these amazing trips together and these amazing parts of the world, and that you just take full advantage of it. I love that. Has there been a wedding or a location that I'm sure there's been so many jaw-dropping experiences, but one that it was almost hard to believe you were there. That
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I I get this thing where how, let's say, the couple that book you to go to Cabo and take their wedding photos there. And let's say you come back home and you post those photos, and then more couples would trust you and want to book you at the exact same place. But for me, I always think about that very first couple that booked me there.
wow,
Like I think I associate a place to a face, to like the reason why I went to Yosemite National Park for the very first time was because of this one couple, because they had never seen me taking photos at all at Yosemite, and they trust me so much that they took me here. The first time a couple took me to Iceland, they never seen me take photos in Iceland. I didn't have any portfolio content to show this is Iceland and this is how I can take
wow,
photos here. And they still book me there. I think of Whenever I think of Iceland, I think of that very first couple. And then now, after I post photo and share more content, and then the next couple, of course, like I totally understand some couple need to see the places and to really trust you. That's reasonable. That's
absolutely,
100%
yeah,
human being reasonable. But whenever, yeah, like so jaw dropping, like I think about each place I go to with the very first couple there. Um,
I love that.
yeah. So, but within this year, I think Patagonia was really crazy for me. Like I, that
Looked
was,
incredible.
the first place that I sort of put on my bucket list, a list I never share with anyone. Like it's sort of just like sort of like on the like on my phone. It's like,
Makes it
oh,
more
one
exciting.
day I
Yeah.
want to see it. I want to be able to just like see this place and then like feel like the mountain and all that. And uh, the couple came to inquire with me, and usually I'm not gonna lie, sometimes couple would come and be like, we don't know where to elope, where should we elope if we want to get married around this time of the year. So then I would think about places and weather. So for example, if people come in and say we want mountain view in February, then North America is kind of hard, right? Like, because we're in the northern hemisphere and everything is frozen. So
Right.
then I would say, for example, would you be able to postpone your wedding until like maybe July, August? Because if the mountain is that important to you, that would give you a better experience. Or if the dates are really important for you, we have to think about where in the world can give you mountain view without crazy rain or snow or blizzard or avalanche. And that would be Southern Hemisphere. And that would be Patagonia or New Zealand, places with mountain view like that. Um, that's how the couple that booked me for New Zealand ended up going to New Zealand, was because they wanted February and they want mountain. But for the couple in Patagonia, I didn't recommend that at all. They came in and they're like, we want to go to Patagonia.
You were probably so excited.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let's get on a phone call.
Like, oh yeah, that sounds great. That
That
sounds
sounds
great.
great.
And like inside, you're like shaking. Like, I really hope I get this couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like even like for locally around here, like when somebody gets to go to their dream wedding venue,
Hmm.
and like for the first time, and it's just a great feeling. I know it doesn't fully compare to Patagonia, but
Oh, I
but
think
like the inner,
100%. The
yeah,
excitement that you have when you
yes,
go into any, like, it doesn't matter where, how big, how small wedding, it's just like how you
yeah,
feel about a certain thing. It
yes,
affect the way that you photograph that whole day. I think it's so
absolutely.
important.
Yeah, yeah, it is a great feeling, and that's what makes it exciting about this this career and this profession, is that you get to be a part of those types of experiences with these couples. Patagonia. That like when I saw your story about it, it looked jaw dropping just from the story. I
I'm hoping I can go back.
Well, if I know of any couples that I'm talking to that are looking to elope in Patagonia, I'll send them your way.
No, you take them. You go to Patagonia. I think you can certainly 100% do it.
Oh, thank you. It would be fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll probably be coming to you for a little advice on where to go and such.
anytime. Anytime.
Thank you. Yeah. So when you are working with a couple who's in a new location you haven't been to, what's the process look like to really find the locations? I mean, I see a lot on your Instagram stories. Sometimes
Mm.
you get there early and you're maybe like hiking certain places or finding like great spots. Like, what does that process look like to ensure you find a spot that
Mm.
just looks great for like the timing of it and the whole experience?
Right, right. So if a couple book me for places I've never been to, and on the very first phone call, I tell them right away, like, hey, like I haven't been here at all. Like I really want people to know that I will be able to do research and find locations and all of that. But I tell them right away, I haven't been here. I just want to make sure that you know that. And then the process of finding locations is actually really fun for me, because that's what I do for even places within Washington State where I'm from. Like there are, even though I live here for more than a decade now. Like I moved here for college and I've been here ever since. There's still so many trails I haven't been to
Wow.
personally. And I might have seen a photo of it on the internet and I might have saved it here and there. Maybe one day I'll be able to get there. I still present those places to couples, and I will tell them I haven't been here, but this is what I found. And a couple many I've had it many times where couples like, that looks amazing. I love that you actually haven't been there because you get to experience this for the first time with us.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so people actually, so many couples actually love that they get to be at a place that I haven't seen before. Um, And so the process actually started with general, like if, for example, let's talk about Patagonia again. I get booked for Patagonia. They need a location. So then I need to think about, do they want to hike? Do they not want to hike? Um, and if they want to hike, how long of a hike are they interested in? I also want to know, when people talk about mountain, they have different definition of mountain. Like some couple might imagine just any shaped mountain in the background is great. Some couple might want to be on like a high elevation where they can stand on top of a cliff and it looks smaller and the mountain's like bigger in the back. So it's that scale and that perspective. So I kind of want to know like what they're thinking and when they say we want mountain. Then from all of that information, I go and I do a really quick general, like just me familiarizing myself with this space and landscape. And so the easiest thing is like National Geographic YouTube channel, some of these travel YouTube thing where just to learn about people's experience there. Like that's when I learned Patagonia is windy. Like that's when then I was like, oh, I did not know that. Like if you look on photos, like you look at photos are still like you don't understand how windy things can be. And I was like, oh my gosh, like geographically, this place is in like the southern hemisphere and the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean are crossing into each other and carving
Right.
the mountain. And I was like, oh wow,
Interesting.
okay, that's really
Interesting.
important for us to understand and keep in mind when we plan on a timeline and like when exactly we can do this. Um, and so from that very first sort of like couple YouTube videos or blog posts, then I see, okay, this is what Patagonia is about. Like it's in two different countries, Chile and Argentina. And then I can sort of started to find like each country, what are the differences. Then I narrow down to national park. And then from there, I go into trail. So then lots of YouTube, lots of Google searches, blog posts on people who do hiking around the world. Um, then once I get like names of trails, usually in America, then I would do all trails because then it would tell me like the mileage, the elevation, reviews from other people. European use a different maps and use different app where they can share their experience and all that. So then, for example, Fat Map isn't a thing that they use, and so like I would download that as well, and then I would look into those places, read people's comments, stories. Because sometimes when you see certain trails too, there might be updates that you might not know, right? Like there, maybe this trail now require a parking fee and only open a certain time of the day. So then we cannot do sunrise and sunset here, but we have to do this trail for other things. So just lots of gathering information. And then when it's time to finally decide on, okay, this is the trail that we're going to do and this is the location, then I use Google Earth Pro, which is a free software anyone can download to the computer. And you can put in the exact coordinates and then you can watch where the sunrise, sunset. I use that to help me understand, because when you Google, like when you go to google.com and put in Patagonia sunrise on this day, the time that they give you might not be the actual first time you see light because of how tall the mountains are. Because
Interesting.
where you're standing, you might be in a valley and you might be, so then same thing with sunset. If sunset say that it's like 7 p.m., you might lose light like around 6 p.m. already because the sun is behind the mountain and not underneath the horizon line yet. So
Wow.
those are the thing that I look for when I build all the timeline for couple.
So the timing of the light is a huge component, of course, and yeah, that's incredible. I mean, that's all about the client experience that you bring is all that research you put in ahead of time. I'm sure the couple loves to hear everything that you come up with, and it probably gets them so excited to really
Yeah.
hear about like the experience and just the whole process of what it could look like for them.
Yeah, what's fun about what I do is when you think about us being younger, when we were younger and maybe our parents or siblings or cousins or aunts, uncles, whoever it is that took us somewhere. When you're so little, you're sort of just like, I'm not going to go on TripAdvisor and read all of this. I don't know about that stuff. So let's say Disneyland,
Yeah,
like someone take you to Disneyland and you just show up and you're like, oh my God, this place is amazing,
yeah.
without the stress of dealing about how to get there. And what I do now is sort of like that for couples. like, oh my gosh, Patagonia is amazing. But he was like, I was the one that like did the heavy work, like just do the research for them instead of them doing it
Yeah.
themselves.
Wow. It's almost like this beautiful element of surprise for them when they
That
show up.
Yeah, that's the thing. I love that the element of surprise for people is like when they get to see it for the first time, like this is where we're gonna get married and say our vows, and this is our place on earth. That's like really fun.
Yeah.
Um, this is like a selfish thing too. Like sometimes, like here, like in Washington, I would have couple who from let's say California, and they want to come up here and get married, and they're planning on, oh, maybe we'll fly up and we do that trail like before our elopement date. Like we would like hike it a month before or something, and then part of me is like, yeah, you can do it, but the other part of me is like I wish you don't, because then you get to see it for the very first time on that day. But I
Right.
understand, like some people just some of us need to just like make sure that we can see it just to calm our mind, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. It's true though. Yeah, I understand selfishly it'd be fun to see that their reaction for the first time being there, but yeah, it is different for everyone, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because some people are just visual and they want to know
Hmm.
ahead of time, but I would be all about the surprise, honestly. That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
It's honestly even like for the weddings that I do, like they love seeing their when they walk into the reception space for the first time with nobody in there. I know it's different from what you do, but like the excitement and like the love that of their faces that you get to experience seeing when they walk into the reception space, and like their wedding is all put together right there, and like
Hmm.
they talked about it, they understood the colors and all that stuff, but it's just right there in front of them for the first time.
Hmm.
And but yeah, it's an amazing piece to be a part of with these couples is when they see the vision of their wedding and they come to
Hmm.
life in person and they get to fully experience it for the first
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the only time, really. You know, that's what makes it a remarkable experience to capture. Is it's the one and only time they experience something like this in their life.
Hmm. 100%.
Yeah, yeah. So I love to wrap up with a couple different questions, and one of them is beyond the time that you spend with your couples and in your business. What do you like to do in your free time? Like, what are you passionate about in your free time? What do you love to do outside of your hours on your camera and in front of a computer?
Yeah. Uh, Believe this or not, I'm actually such a homebody. I
No, you would never think that.
I travel for work,
Yeah,
but and I travel. Instagram make it very social media make it very glamorous. Like it's like a
of
thing when you get
course.
to be here, we
Yeah.
get to be there. But the when you travel for work, you know the time that you're away from friends, family, from my dogs. I used to have four, now I have three. The time away from them, my personal memories, like with my own life, like the birthdays, the graduations, the things that like I miss out on when I travel for work. So when I'm home, I actually want to be just home. Like I just want to spend time with people at home. And so what's really fun for me is just like game night with friends come over and family come over, and we have hot pots, and we just like have a feast at my house and eat and relax, and we all just jump on and play the Switch,
I
and
love that. I
and
love that.
sleep over is like it's like a childhood, like we're just being little kids, like have eating and sleep over and playing games, and
Yeah.
that's my ideal way of just relax, unwind, and just get that catch up with with my loved ones. um so on the day-to-day thing, like for example today, like after a client phone calls, email, I set a hard boundary at 6 p.m. I shut everything down and I don't look at my phone, I don't look at work related stuff at all. And that's when we go for a walk in the neighborhood with the dogs, and then we also don't eat dinner on the dining table, which is which is weird. But our thing is we just prepare food together, then we bring it and to our coffee table, and we sit on the rug with our dogs next to us, and we have dinner watching something on Netflix. That's like my go-to thing.
I love that. Yeah, and it's true. I mean, the traveling is an amazing piece of your life, but there's nothing like being home and
Yeah.
just being still and enjoying that time of peace. And I love that you truly do disconnect from everything on social media and beyond on your phone, just to be present with those you want to spend that time with, because there's almost only so much time that we have
Hmm.
with them. So I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, it is interesting. I've talked to a couple other elopement photographers, and they're pretty much the same. Like they love to travel for work, but they
Hmm.
are huge homebodies, and I understand that. It makes sense.
Yeah.
You just want to relax. You just want to sit down and watch a freaking movie on Netflix
Yeah.
with your people. Yeah, yeah.
100%.
I love that. That's wonderful. Um, and Henry, for those who don't already follow you or connect with you or know much about you, where can people follow along your journey for your wedding photography or your personal life or anything like that?
Yeah, my social media at is that what they call, oh, the handle? My handle, my handle is at Henry's Diary, and I'm on Instagram and TikTok. On TikTok, I'm not really good at anything there. Like it's just confusing for me, and
Fair
so I
enough.
post random stuff here and there. But Instagram is where I mainly hang out, connect with a lot of people up there. I post professional work and my Insta stories. Then I share personal life things here and there, behind the scenes, tips and tricks. Whenever I get to somewhere, it's always fun to just say hello. So if you're not sliding into my DM, please feel free to. I always try to say hi to as many people as possible.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll be sure to put all of that information in the show notes. Henry, thank you so much for being here on today's episode and just sharing your story and the incredible experience that you bring your couples and what all that looks like. And it's just been a joy and honor to have you on today's episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Taylor. It's
Of
been so fun. I cannot wait to listen to this episode and all of the episode that you're going to put out.
Thank you, thank you. I'm really excited about it, and just it was really fun to have this conversation with you today. Thank you everyone for listening in, and I will see you all next week.